Hey guys, it's time to buckle up because we have another good story from Roller Reddit. Wife accuses husband of cheating, but he has a surprise for her. So I put out the word to my friends, and he did the same. And some people agreed to share their stories. So I've seen a lot of pain in people's eyes when they talk about what they went through. But nothing prepared me for what I heard yesterday. So this comes from a person known by a friend of the actor. We talked a few times about what is going on in his life, and it's a story that is now going on 10 years now. But yesterday he called me and said that he would like to talk to me about some developments, and we went for a coffee after dinner. After a bit of small talk, I asked him what was up, and he just handed me his cell phone and showed me a recording of the conversation he had with his wife a couple of days ago. I'm not going to include a backstory, as it's all below, in his own words throughout the conversation. So F will be the friend and FW is friend's wife F. So for the record, you just entered the office in our house and asked me if I'm having an affair, and I asked you to record this conversation before answering. Is this correct, Fwa? Yes, it is. So are you going to answer me? Angry voice, almost screaming F. Yes. FW. Yes, you'll answer Mef. Yes, I'm having an affair. FW. How long has this been going on? Are you asking about the woman I've been with? About 2 years. FW. Shouting, 2 years. You've been unfaithful for 2 years. No, I've been unfaithful for 6 years. More to the point, since the 6th of April of 2015. Yes, it was my birthday. I hired a call girl and spent a few hours in a motel. FW, you're a piece of shit, you know. Why would you do this to Mef? Well, do you really want to have this conversation? Do you really want to go into the why? I'll tell you why. 9 years ago, you started to act different, and I couldn't wrap my head around why. There was nothing fundamentally different between us, and yet, suddenly everything changed. Started to have to walk on eggshells around you. It seemed that the fact that I breathed was irritating to you. And I spent some time lost, wondering why, and trying to do the best I could, but things just seemed to be getting worse all the time. And then our fun time, that was almost inexistent, stopped altogether. Then I found a piece of a condom wrapper in the car. As I was cleaning it, and suddenly the reason became clear, she tries to say something and mumbles, but he stops her F. If you want to know why, you'll know why. Just let me continue and then you'll say whatever you want to say. So, in that moment I felt a pain like I never experienced. I felt emasculated, low. I felt there must be something wrong with me. I wanted to hurt you, I wanted to hurt me. But then I thought of the kids and the fact that I love you so much. I decided I would win you back. But everything I did just seemed to annoy you. I took you to fancy restaurants on romantic dates, took you on vacation to places that you always said you wanted to get to. No, but in reality, you were never there. You were glued to your cell phone and I was completely transparent. You excused yourself with overtime and work functions, and I picked up the house, the kids. You did nothing, except work, and when you were at home, your cell phone was your world. But I was still trying. She can be heard crying in the background from that time on. We had some sort of half-baked pity sex on 2 occasions. The 6th of April 2013 and 2014. On your birthday, in 2014 I went overboard, tried to plan the perfect evening for us as a family, for you just to bail out, calling at the last minute saying you were stuck at work and would be late. Can you imagine the faces of our girls whom you did this? Well, of course you can, but you never bothered to. They were heartbroken. This was the beginning of the end for me. I was going to divorce you and explode yours and your lover's life. Hired a PI. Found all the proof that I needed, all your dirty getaways. Found where the guy lived, found his wife. I followed them, you know. And guess what? You can't even imagine how sweet your lover is to his wife. Maybe he is overcompensating because of his guilt. And then I saw his kids and I just couldn't bring myself to explode their marriage. So I talked to lawyers about starting the divorce proceedings, but then I started to see how this impacted us, financially, how it impacted our lives and the lives of the kids. But let me tell you, at that time, if I had found a way to get away with murder, I would have strangled you with my own hands. And then my 2015 birthday arrived, and there was not even the half-baked pity sex, not even a kiss, not even a card. You completely forgot. FW, crying and shouting. Well, it's not like you did anything for my birthdays either. F, yes, but I did not forget them. I purposely didn't give a damn about them. But in your case, I do believe that I was so unimportant to you that you really forgot. And if you didn't, well, then we are on the same boat, aren't we? She just cries F. So, that night I hired an escort and banged her in the same motel you were at with your lover. And then I decided that the kids were really the most important thing, that not messing them up with all this was important, because they were already suffering from the neglect you were showing them. FW. Neglect? What are you talking about? You want to ask them how they feel? Go ahead. Go talk to them and ask them. I dare you silence F. So, that's when we really had some blowouts, if you remember. But, I knew your lover would never leave his family, so I knew that unless I did something, you would neither. And if you did well, I had really nothing to lose, and in the end we would manage. That's when I stopped doing everything and started calling you out when you were in a bad mood because the clothes weren't washed or ironed, and I started to tell you to do it yourself. FW. And so you decided to go behind my back. F. No. You are completely wrong. I never went behind your back. I never told you, but never hid it. At first, there was really nothing to talk about. After a dead bedroom for 3 years, my confidence that any woman would even look at me didn't exist. But I started to gain some self-respect back, started working out more, stopped drinking and smoking, started eating better, started living for the girls, and you know what? Can you imagine how many divorced soccer moms are out there? It seemed that I wasn't that bad after all. It seemed that the problem wasn't me, it was you. Then 2 years ago, I met my current girlfriend. The kids know her at family events where you didn't want to go, for my side of the family. Never took her to your parents, even though they know, FW, my parents know, of course, I told them. I didn't want some rumors to get to them and didn't want misunderstandings. I wanted them to know what was happening in our lives and their grandkids' lives. I asked everybody to keep it a secret because, as I didn't want to disrupt our lives, didn't want the drama and everything else, and as our marriage was just a piece of paper. FW. Everybody knows all of this, just the kids and our immediate families. That's why I never went back to your parents' house and why I stopped telling you to come to mine. But going back, I never hid it from you. I left Facebook Messenger opened. My mail is logged in our home computer. My phone doesn't have a password. You just never cared, the same way that I didn't feel obligated to tell you. And after I fell out of love with you, I didn't care either. After all, we didn't even talk. We spent weeks where we didn't say a word to one another. We became two strangers living under the same roof, nothing more, and that is what we are. She just cries and cries F. But I knew this conversation would be coming, to be honest. I never expected it would begin with you accusing me of cheating. I think even you can see the hypocrisy. Remember, the phones I gave you for your birthday through the years. You think I did it because I love you. Nah, they all had spyware on them. I've been reading your conversation for at least 5 years now, so I know where you've been, when, if I want to, I can even know how many times you in the backseat of your car or his. And then, without warning, all communication stopped 2 months ago. And I saw how depressed you were around the house as, all of a sudden, your work didn't need you as much as it used to. Wonder why. And then I did some digging and found out about his accident. How he is paraplegic and being taken care of by the wife he was never going to leave. How he can't even move his arms to send you a farewell text. And I saw how nice you started to be to our girls and to me. Even though you were depressed, I knew this was coming. So I'm going to tell you how it's going to be. If you want a divorce, I got 9 years of proof of infidelity, and I will take you to the cleaners. If you want to get out of the house, but not get divorced, you can, but that is solely your problem, financially speaking. I would advise you to keep things as they are, at least until our younger goes out to college in a couple of years. You can find another boyfriend or have your, as long as you are discreet, even though I know it will be different now, because you are almost 50, and you can always find someone to bone you. But I doubt you'll find someone that wants something more meaningful. As for me, life will go on, as it has in the last 9 years. How do you guys feel about what his life was for the last 9, almost 10, years as always? Sorry for grammar and some errors, as I'm not a native English speaker at it. Just came to my attention that someone made a YouTube video with this story. I would kindly ask the person that made the video to take it down, as this is copyrighted material for the play. If he had talked to me about making a video with what I wrote, it would be different, but no one contacted me. So, take it down, or at least contact me. I put this story here for free so many of you that come here with problems have something more food for thoughts, as I did with the other stories, not for someone to profit from the YouTube views. Thank you. Story 2. I, 25F, made my mom, 60F, cry and am struggling to understand what happened. I would say I have a good relationship with both my parents, but my mother can be over-anxious and my father over-critical of me and her, nothing too severe. They've been married around 30 years. My mother often has a lot of anxiety over handling stuff such as renovations to the house, because if done wrong my dad will complain about it, but he also swings between not helping and being a bit of a control freak. A year or so ago, I told my mom I was in a same-sex relationship and that was serious. She told me she would always love me but not to tell my dad, as it might not be what he imagined for me, and she would tell him when the time was right. I accepted this because my dad had been mildly homophobic in the past and can also be difficult. She also was concerned if we were getting married due to the fact we were long distance, and I assured her this wasn't the case right then. Almost a year later, my partner was staying with me and we discussed the idea of her staying for Christmas. I texted my mom about this and she said she was welcome to stay but also kept suggesting reasons why my partner might not want to. I told her my partner had went ahead and rearranged her flights, at which point my mom asked us to pretend we were just friends when visiting. I said I didn't think this was acceptable to do to my partner of 4 years just to keep my dad happy, and suggested maybe me or my partner stay away that year. She mentioned at the time it was not because of me, but she was worried it would impact her own relationship with my dad. My mom eventually caved and told him. She didn't say anything else other than apparently he already knew from some hints she had dropped. The whole Christmas plans ended up canceled because of lockdown anyway. I eventually returned to my parents for a while, and they both seemed fine, asking about my partner and joking about her on a few occasions, and my dad sending his love to me and her during lockdown. If anything before this weekend, I would have said my impression was my dad was more receptive to the idea of me and my partner together than my mom, but of course I have no idea what they say to each other privately. I did hear my mom once say my partner wasn't as impressive as her CVs, seemed they have only spoken a few times through video call when me and my partner were in lockdown. I plan to introduce them the next time my partner comes. My partner is amazing and has a great personality, but was a bit shy, awkward over video. Totally normal essentially. I thought the whole thing was fine. This month me and my partner decided it was time to let them know we were planning on getting married next year. As I'm closer to my mom and she was visiting anyway, and I thought she would be more anxious, I took her out to dinner and tried to tell her. She basically stopped me right at the beginning and began to cry, telling me she had spent a year terrified she would have to leave my dad if he reacted badly, and that the day I made her do it was horrible. She didn't want me to tell her then without my dad, but she already seems to know what I want to say. She also asked me if I had planned to invite her and tell her to send her back to my dad to tell, which isn't the case. I would have told him in my own time, but she was so upset and left after I never got the chance to say this. I backed out and said we could pretend nothing happened, but she cried the rest of the visit. She tried to get on with me and hugged me a few times, just seemed really sad. Later I told her I would always take care of her, and she said she would try to do the same for me, very tearfully. She apologized for the visit not ending like either of us expected. I feel totally blindsided. I knew my mom has some anxieties and my dad isn't the kindest person, but I feel like maybe I selfishly blanked over a lot of this. Is their relationship worse than I thought? Have I been adding to their problems? I expected her to be upset or worried given she is normally protective of me, but I didn't realize there was this element with my dad at play. Am I just an idiot who didn't pick up on cues? I now think I should tell them both at the same time at Christmas, but will that make things worse? I basically have no idea what just happened.